Happy Thursday. It's supposed to be beautiful out today and pretty all the rest of the week and in the 70s. And I am excited for this beautiful weather. So enjoy it while you can, because we know that winter is not over yet. The scripture it starts with is 1 Corinthians 4:2. Moreover, it is required in stewards that one be found faithful. The title of today's devotional is Doing What He Did. And it reads, whether they realize it or not, children are stewards of things given by their parents: time, possessions, food, and more. It is the parents' responsibility to help their children make wise decisions about how to use these resources. In other words, how to be good stewards of the gifts that have been given to them. All human beings were created to be stewards of the gifts of God: life, breath, talents, resources, relationships, and the creation in which we live. Genesis 1:28. Christians have been made stewards of even more: the grace of God, spiritual gifts, and the gospel, for example. As Christians, we're to use our resources to accomplish what Jesus Christ would do in our place. And he said, the Son of Man has come to seek and save that which was lost. Luke 19:10. The question is, are we good stewards? We should be doing the same thing Christ would do in our place: seeking and saving the lost. Now, when I read this one this morning, it made me think of another scripture in the Bible. So I looked it up so I could share it with you. And it's from Luke chapter 16, verse 10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So, what this devotional tells me is that when God gives us blessings, when He gives us things to be stewards over, that those things may start off small. Now, we have a trustees team at church, and all United Methodist churches do, and probably all churches do. They just call them different things. Ours are the trustees. And the trustees are to show faithfulness and diligence and being good stewards of those things that they are overseers of: the building, the grounds, the upkeep, the maintenance, the insurance, building projects, improvements, repairs, all those things. But we're supposed to be good stewards of so much more than just that. And I want you to remember for a moment that the church building is a building. If we met in the parking lot, it would still be church. When we go into the building, we're entering a building to hold the church, because we, God's people, are the church. So we're to be stewards, yes, of those properties, not only the church, but our own properties. We're to pay our bills. We're to keep the lights on. We're to not go into foreclosure. We're to be good stewards of the finances, the income that God provides to us. Now, if we are foolish, if we are not a good steward, we risk losing those things. You may come home one day and the electricity not be working. You may come home one day and you turn on the water and nothing comes out. You may come home one day and find an eviction notice on your door. We are to be good stewards of our resources, not just at the church, but in our personal life as well. But by the same token, we're to be good stewards of all the gifts that God gives us. And He starts off with us kind of little. Now, I want you to think about when your children first started crawling. Oh, it was such an exciting thing. They could get from point A to point B, and they didn't usually cause themselves any harm. I mean, they were just crawling. They were on the ground already. They had nowhere to fall. But then one day they started pulling themselves up on the furniture. And then they would walk along and they would be holding on. Well, see, we're just like those babies. We start off crawling when we become Christians, when we start getting involved in God's church and in His ministries. We're just crawling along. We don't have much opportunity to get hurt. We're just finding our way, getting from point A to point B. And then we start pulling up. We start exercising our faith a little bit. We start exercising those graces and talents and gifts that God has given us. And sometimes we don't make it from point A to point B without landing smack on our bottom. It happens. But we learn every time we fall. We learn how to be a little bit more steady and a little bit more sure-footed because we're reading, we're studying, we're going to Bible study, we're listening to podcasts, we're doing devotionals, we're doing all those things that increase our faith and get us going a little bit steady on our wobbly 2 feet. Then comes the day that you let go of the furniture and you take those steps that are not where you're not holding on to somebody's hands, you're not holding on to the coffee table. Boy, that dates me, doesn't it? Because people don't use coffee tables anymore, but I still do. You're not holding on to the coffee table. You're not trying to get from one chair to the next. You're cruising. You're just out there just doing it all on your own, you think. But you have built your way up to that. Now, that scripture I just read you about being faithful in little will show that you're faithful in much. That's us taking those steps. And then it seems like we go from that walking phase to now we're in a sprint. We're in a full-on sprint to get to whatever it is we want. That toy on the other side of the room, baby, that's mine. I'm going for it. And we then start exercising more and more of our faith that we're going to get from this point to that point. It's the same walk we're doing with God. We have to show that we're faithful in little before God will give us much to be faithful stewards over. So what is it that you're supposed to be a steward over? You have a specific talent that you should be sharing with God's church, whether it's in the building or in the parking lot, doesn't matter. Remember, we're talking about the people of God. That's the church. Do you excel in finances and in business that might be a gift that you're supposed to be sharing with the church? Are you a great organizer and planner? I don't know anybody that can't use a little bit more organizing and planning, let's face it. Whatever gifts and graces and talents that God has given you, your responsibility is to be sharing those with God's people, the church. But I want you to remember what it said in this devotional also. One of those gifts that God has given you is the gospel. What are you doing with the gospel? Now, I want you to think about for a minute that parable that Jesus told about the 3 workers that were left in charge of money, talents is what they were called in the Bible. And he gave he gave them all 3 the same amount. And when he came back, he asked them what they had done with it. Well, one had invested it in such and such and had tripled his money. Oh, very good. Good steward. The other one had taken it and done something else with it and doubled the money. Wonderful. You did a great job. The other one had taken it, and because he was scared to step out in faith, he had buried it in the backyard, basically, and not done a thing with it. Well, the boss was so disappointed and probably disgusted with him. He said, not only am I not giving you more, I'm taking yours and I'm giving it to them because you did nothing with what I gave you. See, the same thing is where God is with us with sharing the gospel. We've got the books, we've got the knowledge, we've got the resources, we've got our Bibles, we've got our devotionals, we've got our Bible dictionaries, we've got our thesaurus, we've got our concordance, we've got all this stuff, we've got the TV, we've got the podcasts, and we're not doing anything with it. We're not sharing the gospel. We might as well be digging a hole in the backyard and burying it. That's not what God intends us to do. God intends us to not just grow our own faith, but help others grow theirs. That is one of the greatest gifts, the greatest talents that God has given you, is to share the gospel with others. God doesn't want anybody left behind. The Bible tells us that Jesus is tarrying, meaning he's not here yet, because he doesn't want anyone to perish, to be left behind. And yet we keep prolonging it when we don't share the gospel with someone and we have the opportunity to. We have got to step out of our comfort zone. We have got to increase our faith. We've got to quit going from crawling to pulling up to walking to going for a sprint at some point so that more and more people can hear the gospel and be blessed by it so that they can then See, you're always supposed to be duplicating yourself so that they can then crawl, then pull up, then walk, then sprint and share the gospel with someone else. And it's just like that ripple effect. It just goes. You know, we can only eat baby food for so long before we need to be on solid foods. We're there, people. It's time for us to start digging in and understanding and learning what we can and then sharing it with others. Otherwise, how will they know? What if you were the only opportunity they ever have to hear the gospel and you failed to tell them? Can you just imagine? I got to read our quote at the bottom, and we've gone long, and I'm blaming it all on technology today because it didn't work twice, and then I had to make sure it was working the third time. But our quote is from W.H. Greaves. Don't know who that is, sorry. Stewardship, oh, I love this. Stewardship is what a man does after he says, I believe. That happens to be the title of this Sunday's message. I believe. Stewardship is what a man does after he says, I believe. So do you believe? If you do, then how are you being a good steward of all that God has given you? Because if you're faithful in little, he'll give you charge over much. I pray you all have a wonderfully blessed day. I got to now figure out how to delete these that didn't have sound. So if there's anything I can do for you other than technology, reach out and let me know. I love you all dearly. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.